Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll apologize for my voice, getting over a sore throat and anything else. But I won't apologize for taking this opportunity to make my voice heard, although many of the things I might be saying have already been very eloquently stated by many of my colleagues who have concerns regarding this legislation and others who will be voting against it. I just finished hearing about nonsense, fear, and ignorance. I can assure you that the many years that many of us have been serving up here and the many of the experts that come before us have done a very good job in our duties and responsibilities to educate ourselves on all sides of the issue here. As far as fear, I know I fear nothing, because once you empower yourself with the information and education, as so eloquently stated, that any child who is well educated could certainly achieve their dreams. That's what we're here to do, and that's what this public process is all about. And as far as nonsense, I find nothing to be nonsense that we take up before this committee. It could be important for a variety of different reasons, for a variety of different people, for a variety of different, again, reasons. I certainly represent the 70th District proudly, and I represent everyone in my community. And when I take a vote and when I speak on behalf of not only my community, but I also look at the state at large. I also look at my own family and what my family looks like, and it's a very diverse family. With that said, this proposal that's before us, and I think the good chairman pointed out, there's certain sections of this proposal that's cognizant of this committee and other sections that are cognizant to other committees. So it's very difficult for us to be making very important decisions in this committee, not knowing what's taking place in the other committees. There's many ways we could have addressed this. We could have done joint meetings with other committees, all together in a room. Could have gotten an auditorium, all the experts, so we can hear all sides, so we can hear what's being done in the other committees, because that makes a difference. For myself, I cannot vote on something not knowing what it's going to look like, its end product. Sure, we talk about that this is a work in progress, there's still work that's going to be done, but if I'm going to pass something out of this committee and know that there's still a lot more work to be done, and what ultimately that work is going to look like, or who ultimately is going to be doing that work, it's a grave concern to me, because then I have my fingerprints on what came out of this committee. So for me, I can't support it. I would have loved to be able to sit down with everyone listening to the same testimony and work towards something. There's a reason why it was passed in Massachusetts and Colorado, and it wasn't by their legislative body. There's a reason why this legislative body for many years has not passed it. It's because there is too much concerns, too much information that we still don't know. Let me remind everyone that we decriminalized marijuana in 2011, that's 8 years ago. And to my shock, I actually had to double check this, but in 2012, we also passed medicinal marijuana, made it legal in the state of Connecticut for medicinal purposes. That's 7 years ago. That was shocking to me because I feel like it was just yesterday. But even after 7 years, we still have a lot of the same questions. What could employers do or not do, regulate, not regulate, fire, not fire? What kind of restrictions could they do? How will their funding be impacted even with the medicinal? Still, 8 years later, we don't have clear-cut information regarding this. How are we going to test people that get stopped, whether or not they're under the influence? And it's not a mere looking at the person and you know. You know what? That's what's gotten us into trouble. That's what profiling is all about. And that's what we avoid at all costs. We want well-trained professionals, law enforcement officials. And we've had people doing under the influence on medicinal marijuana 7 years ago, and we still don't have that in the state of Connecticut. We should be in shock and awe. But here we are quickly already to say, well, we're ready then to pass this. I don't think we are. And we're going to have to deal with the other individuals driving through our states, so that education and training is absolutely necessary whether or not this is passed. I have strong concerns even with the proposal before us, and I think it was mentioned earlier, should have bifurcated this. Because I think many of us would certainly support the erasure impact, but not necessarily the legalization of what's being proposed here today. We had a lot of credible medical testimony that we heard. And certainly, you know, for every credible medical professional, there might be somebody else that could poke holes. There's no study that's ever perfect. But it certainly is very important to listen to it. So if we continue, as legislation passes, to say that children's minds aren't fully developed until the age of 25, let me actually correct that and say that the medical professionals said that it plateaus at 25. So there's still some development that could occur in some individuals beyond 25. And we use that on a variety of different occasions on legislation. Why would we be doing this and allowing individuals under the age of 25 to access this? Now, we're not kidding ourselves. We know people are accessing this right now. But to normalize it, we're going to have a bigger epidemic of people accessing this. And it was interesting because I believe it was several people who came up to testify who said, you know what, ask people whether or not they want this for themselves or for their children. And I've had quite a few conversations with people on this committee and off of this committee. And the majority of responses I receive is, oh no, I may have done it in the past, but I certainly don't do it now, and nor would I ever, whether it's legal or not. Or when we talk about their children, the preference is, oh, absolutely not. I don't want my child doing this, and I'll continue to tell my child that it is not good for them. So why are we doing this? For the people who are already accessing it illegally? Well, guess what, folks? You're now trying to regulate something. You're going to tax and put a cost on it. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to expand the black market that currently exists. People who are doing it now are not buying it at a retail dispensary. They're not paying taxes on it. Where are they getting it from? Well, they might be going to different states now to access it, but they're still getting their hands on it. They're growing it. Someone's growing it. The only thing that we're telling them right now is continue to do so. If you haven't been caught, continue to do so. Because more likely than not, you're not going to want to pay a higher cost for it and pay tax for it. So then the state of Connecticut utilize those funds, and we could joke and say continue the spending that they're spending. But no, the problem is the fear I have, if there's going to be fair with this, is the societal impact, the motor vehicle accidents. We see it already. You don't have to, you turn on the television, you can read the newspaper articles. There's been deaths by individuals driving under the influence of specifically marijuana. Those are my concerns, my grave concerns regarding this. So the black market will grow. Kids will still get it, but more kids are going to be able to access it. And what I see this is a race to the bottom. And I don't want to pass legislation that's going to be hurting our children. And beyond that, specifically also the epidemic we have, the opioid epidemic. Those individuals, we know that this is addictive. We don't need to continue then to send the wrong message in that regard. And if we really do truly look at the language that's before us in this committee, the transfer language, are you kidding me? So now you're telling someone that if you legally purchase something, you can transfer it to another third party so long as they're over the age of 21? So who's going to determine whether or not they're over the age of 21? That individual's going to ask another fellow child, because that's what they are, child? Can I see your driver's license? Is that fake? Is that real? An officer stops, comes over to the group. What do you think the officer is going to do? Ask for receipts? How long ago was it purchased? You think people are going to be carrying receipts on them? Come on. We're creating a bigger problem. Again, I would love to be able to shelter every child in the state of Connecticut. We can't do that. But I'm certainly not going to give them tools to ruin their lives even further. The impact that this is going to have on employment, education, I won't do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.